All right, hey Vikings fans, welcome in to another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, we do. And tonight we tried some amazing beer courtesy, thank you, of Big Grove Brewery.
Yeah, we did. And we also tied up some loose ends on Vikings free agency as things kind of wind down that way.
Yep, and then we were going to do it at some point. We had to do it. We talked about some hypothetical scenarios that were, quote, the most Vikings things ever.
Yes, and we added a little bit of a twist. We ranked them from best to worst. So you shared yours that you came up with, I shared mine, and we had to rank them on a scale of 1 to 5. It got kind of interesting.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. So go ahead and grab a cold one. Join us for episode 85. Skol.
All right, we're going to take just a quick moment here to give a shout out to our sponsor for today's episode, Big Top Ventures. And if you're looking to take an all-inclusive trip to Mexico or Jamaica, all you got to do is send them an email. We're going to put it right down here at the bottom of the screen, Big Top Ventures, LLC@gmail.com. Send them an email. Let them know when you're looking to go on a trip and what you might be interested in doing. And we can guarantee you specifically can guarantee that they'll hook you up with the best possible rate. I can't personally guarantee that yet, but I will eventually.
Just to put it in perspective, I'm not a rich person by any means. Not starving, but I'm not rich, and I'm taking my family of 5 to one of their all-inclusives this summer, and it's definitely doable. So yeah, Big Top Ventures, they get the job done. They definitely have the best prices available.
So there you go. Hit them up, let them know, and thanks Big Top for sponsoring today's episode. We appreciate it.
Another thing. Oh, well, I was going to say another thing we appreciate.
Beer. That's where I was headed.
Yeah, and this beer is kind of special too.
This beer is special. This was gifted to us.
Yeah.
By Big Grove. So actually, you're probably going to see a lot of Big Grove coming up here because we got a handful of different beers from Big Grove just given to us.
Yeah.
So
we tagged them in something. We tried one of their beers recently, and they reached out and said, "Hey, thanks for all the love," and asked if we'd like some free beer, which always is the case. Yes, we like free beer. It's happened a few times. There's been a few different breweries out there who have given us some solid beers. Iowa beer is the best beer, and Big Grove is some of the best in Iowa, so that's saying something. One of the 6-packs they gave us was this Big Ed.
Big Ed.
Have you ever tried the Big Ed?
I have not, and I'm a little interested to see how this goes. These are hefty.
Yeah,
they're 8.2%. It's a hazy double IPA.
Yeah, I think last week we tried our own, Born Ready Nut Brown Ale, but also we tried Tellurian's. What was it?
The Big Peel.
The Big Peel. And that was like a 4.9%er. It's really solid, really good, but this is definitely like almost double that. I've never had the Big Ed, but I'm a huge fan of their Easy Eddy.
Yep, that's a good
they
one.
have a few different variations of the Eddy beer, the West Eddy, the Easy Eddy. I think there's a Royal Eddy, which is like 9%. I've had that, and that's really good, but you don't want to mess around too much with that. So we will be respectful of the Big Ed as well. I hope it's as good. I can't imagine it not being as good. I'm behind here, Evan. You had a really good pour there. Look at that.
I was mindful of my pour this time, and got a nice little pour going on. It's got a nice head going on at the top there, and I can smell it. I haven't even tried it yet, and the citrusy IPA vibes are just coming off of that beer like it's their job.
Yep.
So I'm excited to try it.
Before we try it, just to officially say it, big thanks to Big Road Brewery. And I forget the name of the marketing person that I was messaging with, but Devin, our high school friend,
Yeah,
he's the one that actually met up with me and gave us the beer in person. So thanks to Big Grove and all the people involved. We really appreciate it. But listeners, please know that we're still going to give our honest opinions on these. I don't think I've ever had a Big Grove beer without thoroughly enjoying it. So we're going to say nice things about these because that's all we can do, because they're going to be good. But yeah, thanks to everybody, and let's try it out.
Skol.
Skol.
Oh, yeah.
You can definitely taste that it's a heavy hitter.
It's a boozy one.
Boozy
for sure.
one.
Yep, but it's good. It's refreshing. Very hoppy.
Oh yeah.
Which I know you love, and I like it a lot. It's not that I don't love hoppy beers. Yeah, I don't know what else to say off the bat other than it's very hoppy, and you can tell it's high percentage.
Yeah, listeners, if you've ever had Big Grove's Easy Eddie, which is one of their staple beers, the Eddie seems to be something that they're relying on quite a bit, and for good reason. It is fantastic. This Big Eddie, I mean, maybe for good reason, tastes very similar to that, just a little bit boozier. So if you like the Easy Eddie and you're okay with that boozy kind of flavor being added in, then the Big Ed is definitely going to be something for you. I like it a lot. I'm really excited to drink the rest of these, and I hope I don't wake up with a little bit of a headache tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll take it easy tonight. Even though it's the Big Eddie, we'll take it easy like it's the Easy Eddie.
Man, just look at that though. This looks like a meme of a beer, just how stereotypical it looks with the nice light color, that just solid head retention. Yours is really cool.
Actually, with the pour you had, yours looks like an AI generated. It's like, give me a picture of a beer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's going to show you.
It's right just there. Missing the little bit of foam dripping off the glass. Yeah, I guess that's all we can really say about it until we have a couple more. But yeah, that's delicious so far.
Good stuff. Well, things have definitely kind of slowed down in the Vikings free agency world, which typically happens. It's usually the first week is busy, and then it calms down. There hasn't been that big splashy trade or that big splashy surprise cut or anything like that from any team really in the NFL. It's been a pretty quiet free agency, I think.
Yeah, I will say it's officially been kind of quiet after that initial bang, but for a few days there, really last week, we kind of had some big, ESPN level talkers about a potential quarterback signing. Apparently Aaron Rodgers and the Vikings were kind of talking about signing, and Aaron Rodgers playing in Minnesota, and there was a few reporters in the Athletic were really running with that and maybe hearing some information from one side or the other about how it's real, the interest is there. Aaron might hold up and go to Minnesota and sign there, but will he be a backup? Would he immediately start? What does that mean for JJ McCarthy? Ultimately, reporters started saying, they're going a different direction. Paul Allen was pretty heavily adamant on Twitter that, hey, this is JJ's team. Aaron Rodgers is not signing here. What would you have thought? We kind of talked about it a little bit, but knowing it's 99.9% not happening right now, what would you have thought if Rodgers had signed with Minnesota?
My honest thoughts are, I think it would be an entirely what's the word I'm looking for? A culture destroying move.
It could be.
Yeah, I think it would be. I don't know that there's even a could. I think it absolutely would be. Just knowing the personality that he is. He is a player coach. He's a player GM. He loves to have his hand in everything. And that's not the way this Vikings team is built. And we have a relatively new GM and a relatively new head coach who are killing it and doing a really good job. And now we have the quarterback of the future that the quarterback whisperer of our head coach, Kevin O'Connell, can mold and shape and hopefully make into this super successful quarterback. Yeah. I think bringing in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, it totally upsets the apple cart. It completely tears down any wall or any foundation that you've been trying to build since Kwesi and KOC came in, and you start over at square one. I think it would have been a fireable offense for Kwesi. And apparently, from the rumors I heard, it wasn't even really Kwesi's decision. They said, KOC, it's your call. It's your decision to make. When it comes to the quarterback position, you're the expert. You make the decision. And I'm hoping he said, no, we're going with JJ.
Well, what I really hope is what they're reporting is that everything was considered. I think taking emotion out of it, anytime, you potentially, if everything I heard is true, have a 4-time MVP, generationally great quarterback. Anytime he says something like, yeah, I'd like to play for your team, you should at least weigh the options. And if the answer is what you and I both think it was, that it would be a mistake ultimately, and it would kind of disrupt the culture they got going, good or bad, probably bad in the end, then you make that decision and you roll with it, and you continue with the JJ McCarthy plan that you've been going with since you let Kirk walk. Since before it was officially a JJ McCarthy plan, it was more of a rookie quarterback plan. So I hope they did talk about it, just like I hope they talk about every position down to long snapper. You gotta, it's your livelihood. You got to build the best team ever. But ultimately, I'm personally glad Aaron Rodgers probably won't be a Viking. But if it had happened, I think you and I both would be like, oof, all right, I guess we're rolling with it. We wouldn't have boycotted the team. The Skol Hop wouldn't have stopped. We wouldn't have stopped our podcast. Like, we would have rooted for the Vikings and the players on the Vikings. And just like with Favre, we were both college age when Brett Favre signed, growing up our entire childhood hating Brett Favre because he was the quarterback of the Packers and F that guy. And then it was controversial when he signed, and I kind of came around to it. And then ultimately that 49ers game is when everybody was like, all right, we got Brett Favre, we're going. So we would have backed Aaron Rodgers until it got nasty, which it might have gotten nasty in training camp.
It was definitely ominous though there for a couple of days because the Vikings mysteriously stopped spending money. They had spent the most money by far, and then they stopped with about $32 million left in cap space.
And they still haven't spent that.
Well, yeah, they haven't. But what's curious to me is that's about the going rate of what Aaron Rodgers would have been paid. And I kept thinking to myself, boy, I sure hope they're not saving that for something like that. Because number one, for all the reasons I've already mentioned, it wouldn't be a good idea. And number two, now you're done. You have no more money to spend. And I don't know, maybe there are 3 more $10 million players out there that you could bring in that would be beneficial to the team as opposed to one $30 million player.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you bring that up too. I was listening to Leighton Glodek's Strictly Vikings, his most recent episode from the last couple of days. Leighton was on our show a few episodes ago, but he was saying just that point. The Vikings had, just about that much money, but his point, which I totally agree with, was if you are going to sign a quarterback deserving of that much money, you should have just signed Sam Darnold. Because Darnold was a better quarterback in 2024 than Aaron Rodgers was. And the foundation was set for Darnold to be decent in Minnesota again. That wasn't exactly what Leighton was advocating for. That's not what I'm saying I wish had happened. But if you were going to spend that much money on a quarterback and not, go with JJ McCarthy, then you might as well go with what's immediately been working regardless of the last 2 games.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm really happy that drama seems to have died down and that it's no longer even really an option, and that both sides have kind of quieted talks. I saw something today that basically just said it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Steeler.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah.
And it's not official yet, at least as of the time of our recording here. But I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And if that happens, great. Good for them. Mike Tomlin, good for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can win more than 10 games.
Well, that's the thing about Mike Tomlin too, isn't it? A fact that he's never had a losing season.
He's never had a losing season, but he usually only wins like 10 games.
Well, I mean, it's hard to argue. Tomlin's a great coach.
He is. Oh, yeah. I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just trying to point out the irony in never having a losing season, but never really cracking into that upper echelon of like, wow, you guys had an amazing season. Yeah.
I think didn't he win a Super Bowl? Not to immediately argue with you, but I think.
No, I'm not. And that wasn't my point at all. And I think he is a Super Bowl winning coach. But and he's a phenomenal coach. And I think he's a phenomenal leader. There was a video that came out this year, I think. One of his players came off the field and they'd made a mistake or something. And I forget, but he grabbed him by the shoulder pad, stopped him, and there's footage of this out there somewhere, and he corrected him. He was tough, but he was trying to help the player,
still coaching him up,
not just to like, you're an idiot. Yeah, he was being constructive. He was trying to build the player up and saying, hey, we don't do that here. That's not how we roll. And so I've got a lot of respect for that guy. I think he's a heck of a coach.
Well, we'll touch on this topic a little bit later, but how about Mike Tomlin being the most Vikings thing ever, coming in, being the Vikings defensive coordinator for one season, and then immediately jumping, getting a Steelers head coaching job, which they never hire people because they never fire people. They've probably only had like 5 head coaches in their history. Don't check me on that. I don't know exactly the number. But then he goes on and all he does is win a couple of Super Bowls with Ben Roethlisberger, and the Vikings chose to keep, I think it was Childress at the time, as head coach over Mike Tomlin. What could have been?
Yeah, you are foreshadowing our next segment. But I feel like we need to spend a little bit more time on free agency. Yeah. I think there's still a little bit of stuff we can milk out of that. So I found a really good tweet here from Skol City, and I'll try to put that up here so everybody can see it here. But this was, to me, the most comprehensive list of all of the ins and outs of free agency as it relates to the Vikings, both players coming in and players going out. Mm-hmm. And we'll put it up here, so I'm not going to read the whole list. So if you're listening, this would be a good reminder to go watch us on YouTube or watch on Spotify, because you can see some of these things that we're talking about. But maybe what we could do here really quick is just kind of off the cuff talk about our favorite move and our least favorite move from this list. So we've got a list of players that were re-signed. So they played for the Vikings last year. The Vikings have re-signed them. New acquisitions, so free agents that have come in from other teams. There's a pretty lengthy list of those. Mm-hmm. There's also a pretty lengthy list of players lost in free agency. So players that were Vikings last year that are now playing for other teams. We have a few players that were released or traded, and then we have one trade, obviously Jordan Mason, running back, coming in from the 49ers for some draft picks. Favorite move and least favorite move from this list in Vikings free agency?
Yeah, I mean, and I think we kind of touched on this a little bit last week with friend of the show Forrest too, but my favorite move is more of a signal of what many of these moves have shown. They let Sam Darnold, get a well-earned contract with a different team. They bolstered up the offensive and defensive lines. So my favorite move is that they weren't afraid to make some pretty big changes, especially with Sam Darnold. A scary change to go from a guy that is working, that has played well, minus the last 2 games, and to continue with a plan that, that competitive rebuild plan. I think the rebuild is kind of done now, unless JJ McCarthy doesn't work out and it's like, well, that rebuild didn't work, but I think as far as since Kwesi said the term competitive rebuild until now, they've done it. They've accomplished it, keeping the best parts of their roster, re-upping, the up-and-coming parts of their roster, and signing big names to fill, glaring needs. So my favorite move is multiple moves showing they're not afraid to do the scary things and build the best team they can.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some big names on that list of lost players that were Vikings and are gone. We've already talked about Sam Darnold, but Cam Bynum, he was a big contributor on defense. Cam Robinson stepped in and filled in admirably for Christian Darrisaw. Pat Jones, he was hot to start the season. I thought he would lead the league in sacks at one point. He was killing it. Yeah. He kind of tapered off there, but man, he was still a force to be reckoned with. Jerry Tillery, we talked about him a little bit before we started recording. He's probably one of those guys that contributed more off the field to the team culture, and maybe even on the field in ways that you don't see on paper.
Yeah.
So some pretty big losses for this Vikings team that was actually really good this last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
what about you? Your favorite move?
I think my favorite move is the trade for Jordan Mason.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's maybe the cheap answer. It's maybe the easy one. But you have to kind of cascade that with re-signing Aaron Jones. I think you've got Jordan Mason, who's a little bit younger. You've got Aaron Jones, who's a little bit older, more experienced. Now you have that dynamic 1-2 punch that all of the other successful teams in the league have had. When Jordan Mason was still with the Niners, it was CMC and Jordan Mason. You had I forget their names, Jahmyr Gibbs and
David
Montgomery in Detroit, Knuckles and
Sonic and Knuckles.
Sonic and Knuckles, yeah. Right, all of the really good teams have that 1-2 punch at running back, and it felt like we lacked that this last season. Aaron Jones was the guy, and we just didn't have an answer. Cam Akers wasn't really the answer for that RB2 position. Who was the other one?
Ty Chandler.
Yeah.
The Big Eddie is getting us. The Big Ed.
No, my wheels were just spinning there for a minute. Who's that other running back? No, Ty Chandler. There was just no answer there. So I like that move a lot. And then to cascade that even further, we've talked a lot about this kind of revamped offensive line. That's a move that's going to help those running backs as well. So I think all of those things have been phenomenal, but I'm most excited to see how those things open up. The offensive line opens up for both of those backs.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Do you have a least favorite?
I think we talked a little bit about Bubba Bolden last week. He's definitely on my list of least favorite. I think too, I would have to probably go to that players lost list, and it probably involve Cam Bynum or Jerry Tillery or players like that, because I'm upset that they're no longer Vikings, and I enjoyed watching them play. It's not that they're bad. It's just that they were great, and I wanted them to stay and wanted them to continue contributing to what was happening. But yeah, I'd say something like that.
My least favorite, I'll have to talk about it, is Rondell Moore.
Interesting.
Now, I think he could be good, and we spent some time with Forrest last week kind of talking about Rondell Moore and how he's got a lot of potential, and I think I saw somebody on Twitter saying that he kind of reminds them of a poor man's Percy Harvin, just in the way that he can move and be electric, and but he's still, a wide receiver 3 maybe. And I don't hate that they signed him, but I wish they would have done a bigger move at the wide receiver 3 spot. I was kind of interested in seeing if they'd go after Cooper Kupp. I think I saw something on, day one of free agency that Adam Thielen had redone his contract to guarantee that he would stay in Carolina, but I mean, maybe, I don't know if the blood is bad there in that relationship, but maybe they could have pursued potentially a reunion with Adam Thielen, either via trade or if Carolina would have cut him. They never did that, so it would have had to be a trade. But I think the Vikings could have done more to make a bigger impact at that wide receiver 3 spot. I mean, Deebo Samuel, he was traded for like a 5th round pick. Granted, his contract dollars were a factor in that, but it's not like who traded for Deebo?
The Commanders?
It's not like they had to completely send a package that the 49ers couldn't say no to. And I mean, they could still make some moves. They could draft a guy. Wide receiver is probably not the biggest glaring need for the team right now. It's probably something like QB2 or making sure that cornerback room is totally shored up. But it would have been nice to have a more solid move rather than a typical Kwesi buy low type move.
Oh, I definitely think bringing Adam Thielen back home would have been huge.
Well, and that would have been a heartstring thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I would have bought that hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
I would have been all in on that. And I remember looking at the tweet or whatever the day he signed with Carolina, and my heart kind of just sank a little bit. It's like, oh man, well that unless he signs one of those mythical one-day contracts,
which he might,
to
that'll be
retire
fun.
a Viking, he's gone. But no, I definitely agree with that too. I think that's a really good point, and I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Rondale Moore turns out to be this great wide receiver 3.
Even if he's decent, like all he needs to do is get 400 or 500-ish yards, a couple touchdowns, no major like game altering drops or anything, and he'll be good. Maybe some decent kick or punt returns. He doesn't have to be Justin Jefferson, but it would have been nice to have a bigger name in that role.
Well, and another thing to remember with all of that is we're still not sure what's going to happen with Jordan Addison. And that wide receiver 3 position might become even more important going into the season because Addison might be facing some sort of a suspension from the league.
Yeah, I think from everything I'm seeing on Twitter and just the way everybody's talking, it's probably safe to assume at this point, granted it's late March 24 or 25 right now, it's probably safe to assume we can just expect Jordan Addison to get like a 3-ish game suspension to start the season. And for what he's done, like I think we could both agree, like he probably needs to have something happen to him. I mean,
yes.
Thank goodness he hasn't done anything concrete enough that like someone's life is altered.
Yeah.
But I mean, driving under the influence, driving recklessly, whether or not you're under the influence, like you can't do those things. So hopefully some kind of punishment happens that's fair for him that he can just learn from and move on. Maybe he's already kind of learned from what he needs to, because since his last run in with getting pulled over, I don't think publicly he's had anything else come out. So
no, he's been relatively quiet.
But yeah, it's probably safe to assume, at least for the first 2, 3, 4-ish games of this season, Vikings will have to be relying on what will end up being the wide receiver 3, and then even TJ Hawkinson. And then maybe, the passing game involves the running backs a little bit more. They're going to have to spread themselves a little bit more than they will have to when Addison's back.
Are there any other players on that list that we need to turn up some dirt on? Anything we haven't talked about? Anything that we're like, yeah, we haven't really spent a whole lot of time talking about those guys?
I mean, we didn't really talk too much about the loss of Ingram and Bradbury.
Yeah.
I think productive, non-signings. It's kind of crazy that they were able to get a draft pick for Ingram and nothing for Bradbury, because I thought Bradbury was the better of the two. But that's still nice that the line is better now than it was.
They both had their flaws. Obviously, Bradbury was undersized and just got bowled over. But he was really smart in pass protection, and I think that's where he shined. And then Ingram just, I don't know. All I can remember with him is him stepping on Kirk's feet all the time, just taking that first step back with his left foot and ended up stepping on Kirk's right foot, and the two of them both fall over. And
well, it's funny because it only happened twice.
But that's all I remember.
Two more than should happen.
Yeah, that's all I remember.
Yeah, I think just the 10,000 foot view of the roster as it sits right now, March 24th, compared to where things sat, on kickoff of the Packer game that Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. It has changed quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And argue with me if you want. I would accept a different opinion. I think the roster is better off right now than it was kickoff of that game. How things sat, what the future might look like. A major caveat to that is we don't technically know what we've got in J.J. McCarthy. We just assume based off of a good college career and a really fun preseason game against other backups. But overall, I think the roster is better now than it was right before Kirk tore his Achilles.
I actually kind of agree with you. I just thought of one more thing we should talk about before we go on to our next segment. Because there have obviously been a ton of rumors circulating about the QB2, and we spent a lot of time at the beginning of this episode talking about Aaron Rodgers, and that whole thing has definitely died down, and it's probably not likely that he ends up a Viking. But you mentioned Kirk Cousins, and I've heard rumors of, the Vikings are just kind of waiting to see if maybe they can get him back, or Ryan Tannehill's kind of been the like flavor of the week, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
In quarterback 2 world for the Vikings this week, that's been the hot news. Oh, Tannehill, maybe. I don't know. Who do you think is going to be QB2 for the Vikings?
Well, I think we can rule out Kirk. I think for the same reason a quarterback needy Jets team didn't clamor after Sam Darnold. I think both the Vikings and Kirk Cousins would be happy to
go their separate ways.
Let that be what it is right now, especially since it is so recent. Kirk is still probably looking to be a starter, and I think any quarterback that comes in, even Aaron Rodgers, you got to think immediately they're going to sit behind JJ until JJ loses the job or forces you to have to think elsewhere. But I think if you sign someone like a Ryan Tannehill, that's fine. That's perfect. He can be a veteran who's been out of football for a year, I think, to come in and kind of help coach up a young guy and hopefully make the Vikings a better team. I think Jameis Winston would have been a guy like that, but I think he signed with the Giants, right?
That sounds right, yeah.
So I don't honestly really know. I think who's available, it's probably something like Tannehill or Flacco. I don't really know who else.
Did I hear North Dakota State kid? Oh gosh, he's been all over the place.
Just the number 2 overall pick in the draft a handful of years ago, and played for the Eagles and won a Super Bowl with them.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, Carson Wentz.
That guy. There it is. Carson Wentz.
I think he signed somewhere.
Did he sign somewhere?
I think so. Because he was with the Chiefs last year, and they signed Gardner Minshew to be their current backup.
Because Carson Wentz is definitely a more of a local product. He's kind of like an Adam Thielen story. North Dakota isn't Minnesota, but everybody in North Dakota cheers for the Vikings for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be someone not from North Dakota that lives there now to have to cheer for another team. I feel like Carson Wentz is a current free agent.
So I can see that happening. I don't know how productive that would be for anybody involved, but
I don't know how credible it is, but I saw a tweet that made it seem like the Vikings were at least somewhat interested in bringing back Josh Dobbs as a backup.
I'd take the Pasternaut.
I would absolutely take the Pasternaut as a backup. But yeah, that's what it is. I mean, we're talking about QB2 right now. The assumption should be J.J. McCarthy is the starting quarterback. Yeah. Unless they did something crazy, like remember my hot take from a handful of episodes ago that a starting quarterback would be traded that we don't really think about. I mean, they would have to see, like, we would have to get through OTAs, and the Vikings would have to be like, oh crap, JJ McCarthy is not, he's not doing it, for them to up and try to trade for, I don't know, Justin Herbert, or Joe Burrow is not going to be traded, but like, you know, a starter somewhere else. But yeah, outside of that crazy scenario, JJ McCarthy is the guy.
No, and yeah, I completely agree, but I'd like to remind you of something you've said many times on this show, that quarterback too is a legitimate position.
And for that reason, I wish Nick Mullins would have been re-signed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's maybe one on that list of players lost that we kind of wish wasn't. But anyways, no, I think that continues to kind of be the remaining untied loose end at this moment for the Vikings. Who do they bring in to be that backup?
And I think in the last handful of days, Dustin Baker, friend of the show, Dustin Baker, had a very sobering tweet, and maybe even wrote an article about it. I didn't dive too much into it, but he basically said, like, guys, we're talking QB2 here. Like, we are too worried about QB2 for the same reason I think Vikings fans, it's kind of neat to talk about, but I think we're too worried about comp picks. Like,
oh, I don't care about the comp.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to think like, oh yeah, the Vikings got an extra third-round pick. They might get another third-round pick next year. But like, to be mad if they sign a guy because it messes with the comp pick formula for next year, like,
I think they're going
that be.
to, right now, the Vikings are going to get 2 comp picks, one for Sam Darnold and one for Daniel Jones. I think they're projected to.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it's
next
working.
Year.
But yeah, Dustin Baker basically was like, guys, talk about it, but we shouldn't be fretting about QB2.
The classic Allen Iverson. We're talking about practice.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about practice.
Another name that's out there that probably isn't, too much of a meter mover, CJ Beathard, former 49er, bounced around. He was
Hawkeye.
Yeah, former Hawkeye. He was a Jacksonville backup. But now they have Nick Mullins. Mac Jones signed somewhere, but he would have been a fun-ish name to think about as a backup QB, somebody that might have some potential in there. Whoever they end up signing, because they have to right now. I mean, you can't walk into the season with only 2 quarterbacks, being an inexperienced, not rookie anymore, but a guy that's never played yet, and JJ McCarthy, and then Brett Ripien, who also totally inexperienced. Maybe he's good enough to actually be QB2, but you can't just roll with it. Like, you gotta sign somebody else. So whoever they end up signing, we're gonna sit back and be like, yeah, that Flacco signing was really nice, or yeah, Carson Wentz, that's such a solid signing, or Trey Lance, whoever they end up signing, we're gonna be like, all right, that's pretty good.
That would be a decent pickup.
I just picked his name out of. I don't even know if he's available.
He probably isn't, but. No, I agree with you, and I'm not trying to conjure up any sort of
it's
clickbaity title, but it's something that the Vikings need to figure out before we get to the draft.
Yeah.
Honestly, it needs to happen soon.
Yeah, it's really nice. I feel like it's a sign of convenience right now that QB2 is
the biggest roster.
Just like I feel like about this time last year, well, we were talking about quarterback, but at some point in the offseason, a big talker ended up being Dalton Reisner. I think that should show how good this Vikings team is. Eventually we'll start, if they don't bring in competition for Ryan Wright, we'll start talking about, his punter at a good spot. And I mean, if Will Reichard misses any kick in training camp or preseason, we might start talking like, ooh, should we bring in somebody to compete with Will Reichard? Like, it's nice that we're not talking about like, oh, is Justin Jefferson getting traded?
Yeah.
Or Christian Darrisaw, he might not re-sign. We're not talking about that stuff. We're talking about the nooks and crannies of the roster. Yeah. Which is kind of fun. Maybe that means this Vikings team is better than we think it is.
All right. Well, I think it's about time that we move into maybe a refill.
Yeah.
And another segment. And this is a segment I texted you about literally hours ago.
I like it though.
And I was sitting at the dinner table, and it just the light bulb came on in my brain, and it was actually kind of inspired by Leighton Glodek. We mentioned him a little bit ago.
Yeah.
We had the chance to have him on kind of in a bonus episode a couple weeks ago.
Go check that out. That's solid. And I think it's what we talked about with Leighton a few weeks ago is kind of almost timeless in a sense that we weren't talking like, oh, is Sam Darnold going to re-sign? I think we might have actually mentioned that quickly, but nothing we talked about with Leighton weeks ago is completely out of date and unlistenable right now.
And it was kind of a getting to know you with us and him too. So it was fun. March 6th, we put that out, March 6th. So go check that out. But anyways, I was sitting at the dinner table tonight, and I remembered what he said. He mentioned right at the end of that episode, something about how it would be the most Vikings thing ever if.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking, what if we came up with some different scenarios, and you did some homework on this, and so did I. Wouldn't it be the most Vikings thing ever if? So we each came up with these scenarios for this coming year, the next season, that would be the most Vikings thing ever. And obviously, I think there are definitely things on my list that I hope don't come true. But I think there are some actual things on this list that I'd be like, actually, that would be okay.
Oh man, I went all negative.
You went all negative?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have a few. They're not super negative. They're somewhat positive. There's a silver lining to some of them.
Should we gamify this a little bit? I don't know how we would, but maybe like once we read off our scenario, like if I read you mine, then you could rank like, oh yeah, that's a 7 out of 10 on the list of most Vikings things ever, or like, dude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's a 1, or like, that's a 10.
We each came up with 5.
Yeah.
So maybe we could just rank them 1 through 5. I'll rank yours. You rank mine.
Okay.
1 being the best. Like, yeah, if that happened, that would be okay. 5 being the worst.
Oh man. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you. Like,
I hadn't even really thought of gamifying it, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know, but like you're talking best, like, yeah, I really hope that happens, and worst being like, oh, US Bank Stadium gets hit by a hurricane, like that'd be the most Vikings thing ever. I hope that's number 5. Like, please don't happen.
This just reminds me of this is so random, but I think it was one of the first times we ever had Dustin Baker on our show. We did something like this.
Oh yeah,
and I could not keep straight which was best and which was worst. Do you remember that?
Yeah. And that wasn't the first time we had Dustin on. That actually wasn't terribly long ago.
Nah, it was a while ago. It was maybe like the 3rd or 4th time he was on with us, but I felt like an idiot. Anyways, I'll try to keep it straight this time.
You know what it was? This where people are they stopped listening a while ago.
It's all right.
I think it was like your most surprising cut and your least surprising cut of like players on the Vikings roster coming into the 24 season. And like there was something about like you thought like, yeah, I'd be most surprised, but our wires were crossed.
My wires were crossed. You and Dustin were on the same wavelength. But then once you
started talking, I started thinking the way you were, and I was like, oh, Evan's right. Crap, am I wrong?
Anyways, all right, so the rules are simple. We're going to alternate back and forth, but I like the game where we have 1 through 5 and we have to rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once we rank one of them, it's locked in at that spot. And then you have to put something else somewhere.
Okay.
Somewhere else in a different spot. So if you say, if the first one that I share is number 5, it's the worst. You hope that doesn't happen.
And then if you say something even worse, I'm going to be like, oh,
you're
crap.
Screwed.
Okay. I like it.
All right. Do you want to go first?
Do you want me to go first? I can go first.
You said yours were all negative. So
okay. Well, and I kind of, as I wrote them down, I kind of wrote them. No, you'll see. Okay.
You put them. I haven't seen your stuff. I'm gonna look away.
All right. So I kind of wrote them out. So okay. First thing, this would be the most Vikings thing ever. The Vikings finally get some respect from the national media this offseason after a great offseason. And with J.J. McCarthy looking great in training camp and in the preseason, they look like they're finally going to break out, while the rest of the NFC North shows signs of falling apart. The Lions lost their brains in the coordinators. The Bears, Caleb Williams doesn't really turn out, and Jordan Love turns into a pumpkin. The NFC North just falls apart, and the Vikings look great. And then they go on to have a losing season, losing 10 plus games by one score. The most hyped the Vikings have ever been coming into a season, and then they finish at the bottom of the division.
Okay. So a last place finish after last week. You and I both said, "Oh, Forrest was sitting where I'm sitting," and we're like, "Nah, Vikings finish first. We win the division."
To summarize it, basically, like, yeah, they're the most hyped ever. ESPN Stephen A. Smith is finally a Vikings fan. You know, like they're finally hyping it up.
I'm gonna say this about the Minnesota Vikings. I'm gonna say it once, and I want you to hear me.
This is a really good.
It's a terrible impression, but like you said a minute ago, nobody's listening anymore, so it's fine.
So yeah, the Vikings are super hyped up. They're supposed to be good, and then kind of the opposite of 2024. They're supposed to be good, and then they have a losing season just because they just keep losing games.
All right. Well, I'm going to put that at 3. I'm just going to put that smack dab in the middle. It could be worse.
Okay.
But it could be better.
All right.
And I don't know what else you've got for me, so I'm going to take 3 for now. I'm going to say it's smack dab in the middle. All right. All right. You ready for mine?
Yep.
Okay. So this is history repeating itself if this happens, and it doesn't necessarily I guess it could directly impact the Vikings because they will play this team this year, but quarterbacks have a history of leaving the Vikings and then finding success elsewhere.
Okay.
So it would be the most Vikings thing ever if Sam Darnold left and immediately finds success with Seattle. And for reference, Rich Gannon played for the Vikings from 1987 to 1992. He went on to be league MVP with the Raiders in 2002. He lost Super Bowl the year later to another former Vikings quarterback in 2003. And that would be Brad Johnson, who was a Vikings quarterback from 94 to 98 and won that Super Bowl in 2003 with Tampa Bay.
Johnson came back to...
Yeah, so it would be the most Vikings thing ever for Sam Darnold to have a fantastic season, crumble at the end, and then go on to be super successful with another team. Where do you put that one?
I'm going to put that at a 1.
Wow, okay.
Because, yes, it would be the most Vikings thing ever, but... like you kind of alluded to, it would kind of affect the Vikings because they play them. But it's also not like Sam Darnold being successful in Seattle doesn't mean the Vikings aren't successful or can't be successful.
I'm still bitter about Rich Gannon and Brad Johnson. And I was a kid when those guys were playing.
Brad Johnson came back, and he had at least one season where he gave us an 8-game win streak.
Yeah.
No Super Bowl, but... he kind of redeemed himself a little bit.
He was a fan favorite too, I feel like, in Minnesota, and I think Rich Gannon was too. I think Vikings fans, he played before we were even born and then left when we were babies, but I think he was pretty well respected.
Well, and admittedly, in my personal fanhood, Brad Johnson, I didn't really recognize him as a Vikings quarterback until he came back. I think he had already played for and left the Vikings before I kind of woke up as a fan.
And he's one of the first quarterbacks I remember. When I was a little kid, when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, growing up in Minnesota, and we would come home from church and we'd flip on the TV and it's the Vikings playing and Brad Johnson's the one under center. He's what I remember. So yeah, no, I'm a little bitter still about all that.
Fine.
And I definitely think it would be the most Vikings thing ever for that to happen with Sam Darnold.
Yeah. So. All right. So a 1 for me.
Okay. What's your next one?
All right. My next one. All of the big-name free agents fail to play as well as they always have. Fries and Kelly consistently miss blocks. Byron Murphy Jr. suddenly can't cover anyone and misses tackles left and right. Allen and Hargrave can't stop the run. And on top of that, Garrett Bradbury earns his first Pro Bowl, and Sam Darnold is considered for the MVP award.
So that's kind of similar to what I just said.
Sentiment.
But you added the not only do the departing players play well elsewhere, but the new players play worse. You know, I've got to go with a 4 on that one. I think for me. Do you think there's something worse?
I've already said too much.
You've already said too much. I don't. Okay, I'm gonna change my.
No. You can't.
I locked it in. I locked it in. It's 4.
What were you gonna change it to?
2. I'm just gonna go to the other side.
All right. Yeah, I think that's.
I mean, sure. That definitely would be the most Vikings thing ever, though, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, you make all these splashy moves in free agency. We sit here, we say, oh man, it's such a good thing that Garrett Bradbury's gone because he just, you know, he got bowled over all the time.
Yep.
And, you know, now he goes to play for New England and he just lights it up and he's the league's best center. It would be the most Vikings thing
and
ever.
Again, when I was writing that, I was kind of thinking like when I said about your point, Sam Darnold being successful in Seattle, like good for him. I think we'd be happy for him unless it negatively affected the Vikings. So that's why I threw in the Fries and Kelly can't block for anything, and then Garrett Bradbury is also all of a sudden good. So it twists the knife a little bit more. All right, what's your next one?
All right. My next one. Do we still have? Yeah, we still have this over here. Okay.
Oh no.
So, over here, you might not be able to see it
Probably
when
not.
we crop it in later, because we kind of zoom in our final edit. But we have a nice little felt banner of the
Maybe
biggest.
we can in the video put superimpose the.
We'll take a picture of that and then I'll put it up here. We'll put it right here. Biggest comeback in NFL history: the Vikings against the Colts. Infamously, our friend Brian.
Yeah, shout out Brian.
Was there watching the game with us. He left at halftime and then miraculously the Vikings came back and
Literally miraculously.
so he's not allowed to watch Vikings games with us anymore.
Well, we just have the caveat of
if they're losing badly,
he needs to leave, which I think he fully respects.
Yeah. Anyways, so to get down to it here, it would be the most Vikings thing ever for the Vikings to give up their claim to the biggest comeback ever, and they will be on the losing end of that game. They will be the ones to give up the biggest comeback of all time to another team.
You know what? I fully expect that to happen.
To the Vikings?
Whether it's in 2025 or 21-25. I fully expect that to happen at some point, whether or not we live long enough to see it. I'm going to put that at a 3.
Okay.
Because you could still have a decent season after losing a game.
Yep.
Because ultimately that's what it would be, is losing a game. Now, if you lose that way because everybody gets injured, and the whole season's lost, that's one thing. But
or worse, everybody just gives up and culture goes out the window and people are just mad and not playing anymore.
So records are made to be broken, and I kind of view that largest comeback in NFL history. That's to me, that's a record. I put that up with, Adrian Peterson's 296.
For sure.
As a fan, I think about that fondly as if it's a record that I witnessed, which it is. So records get broken all the time. It's only a matter of time until somebody surpasses Adrian Peterson's rushing yardage total. He's only second. He didn't get the record, but somebody will pass him and Eric Dickerson. These records will be broken. So it would be the most Vikings thing ever, especially if it happened to them. But there will be a bigger comeback at some point. So 3 for me.
All right. Fair.
Good one, by the way. That's solid.
That was one of my favorite ones.
There's going to be a point for the rest of our lives until it happens. The Vikings are going to be up by, because what was it? They're going to be up by 33 points on somebody, and we're all going to be like, here it is. It's going to be the most Vikings thing ever to have them lose this game and lose the title of greatest comeback in NFL history. It's going to happen.
All right.
Hopefully not this year.
Hopefully not this year.
I mean, we could still say that, and then they could just keep winning and win by 50,
That'd be great, too.
All right, my next one. You ready?
Mm-hmm. I'm nervous, though.
This one's a little theatrical, and it kind of touches on something we've already talked about a little bit. Okay, so the Vikings are in a critical game to make the playoffs, needing just one more win to clinch a spot. It's a close game, and they've been playing great the whole season. And then, in the final minutes, with everything on the line, Dallas Turner sacks Sam Darnold in the end zone for a safety. Except he tackles him by his face mask, and the refs see it this time. The Seahawks get a first down automatically because, you can't. It's a face mask.
Yeah, you put some thought into this one.
They drive the rest of the field. They drive the rest of the field. And to cap it off, Sam Darnold Michael Vicks his way in for a rushing touchdown to win the game, breaking a tackle attempt by Harrison Smith. And the
Very
Vikings
specific.
miss the playoffs. And that's Harrison Smith's last play.
Wow. That has to be...
Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, don't make it number 1.
Or 2.
Or don't make it number 5. Don't make it the worst.
No, 5 is... Oh, yeah. Okay. Well...
I thought we were saying the scale. 1 is the nicest and 5 is the worst. I suck at these things.
Yeah, you're right. I wrote it down too. I'm looking at it right here. 1 is the best, 5 is the worst. That's what I had said. And I've already taken 3 and 4, which means I can pick 5 or 1 or 2.
I'm just telling you right now. Don't pick 5.
There's something worse than that?
Yeah, I may have gone overboard a little bit.
Well, then I got to go 2 because that sounds pretty awful.
That's just a culmination of the most Vikings things ever.
And I wish I could reverse my previous pick and that pick because I feel like that's how it should be. I think the last one should be 2 and this one should be 4.
So far, your rankings of my most Vikings things ever. Number 1, the nicest, being...
I've just been keeping track of the numbers.
Oh, okay.
So I've taken number 3, number 4, and number 2. The first scenario you presented to me, I picked it 3
so
right
far,
in the middle.
Sam Darnold icing the Vikings and ruining Harrison Smith's last play. That's number 2. Number 3 is the Vikings coming into 25 with some hype, a lot of respect, and then just having a losing season. And then number 4 for you is just all the big name free agents fail while the leaving Vikings succeed with their new teams.
And to recap, well, let's get you one more pick and then we can recap your 3 picks. But you've taken 1, the best.
1 and 3.
And 3. All right. So mine aren't nearly as detailed as yours.
That's fine.
And actually, I have some positive ones. I'm going to throw a positive one your way. It's positive with some negative in it. I think the Vikings will win, and this would be a very Vikings thing to do, possibly the most Vikings thing ever, to win a game despite losing the turnover battle and making multiple costly mistakes throughout the game. It's not very specific, but this last season, winning the turnover battle was a big thing. Kevin O'Connell was touted as, well, when he wins the turnover battle, his teams win games.
Yeah.
And we've been very critical of his clock management, game management as a young head coach. So actually here, I don't even have the Vikings. I say KOC will win a game despite losing the turnover battle and lots of different costly mistakes throughout the game. It would be the most Vikings thing ever for that to happen.
It absolutely would. So I got to go 2. It would be 1, but 1's already taken. Yep. I'm going to go 2. But I could see that happening too. Like, holy crap, we're going to be sitting there like, well, I'm not feeling so great about KOC right now, but man, that crazy play by JJ McCarthy really saved the whole game. Stuff like that. Yep. That's number 2 for me.
All right. So to recap your picks, your best scenario is Sam Darnold finding a ton of success with Seattle, just like Rich Gannon did in the 90s, and then Brad Johnson did in the, I guess both of them did in the early 2000s. It's kind of amazing that Rich Gannon was so long lasting. Yeah. He might be like up until Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco and some like Tom Brady, these super old guys. He might be the last like true old guy to play the game at that position.
played pretty old.
Favre
too.
was in there too. Yeah, for sure. So you had that one as your best scenario, and then your third scenario, so your middle scenario was the Vikings giving up the claim to the biggest comeback ever and being on the losing end of that scenario, kind of right in the middle. And then your second best, or number 2, was KOC specifically winning a game despite losing the turnover battle, turning the ball over more than they turned the ball over on the other team, and making several costly mistakes throughout the game. So you've got 4 and 5, the 2 worst left, and I have 1 and 5, the best and the worst.
So we'll see how this turns out for you.
This will be really interesting.
All right, my next scenario. J.J. McCarthy starts the season off hot. He's breaking some single game records and pushing for some single season, even if they're only Vikings, single season records. But his knee starts to bother him again. He plays through it for a couple of games, but ultimately overdoes it, damages his knee significantly, misses the rest of the year, and really never returns to form, kind of like a Carson Wentz scenario. And the Vikings ultimately have to draft another first-round QB within the next couple of years.
I feel like I'm missing some information here. Like, what's the end result of the season for the Vikings? How do they finish?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm just thinking about the Vikings quarterback situation.
Okay.
I'll leave it open-ended for that.
Okay.
Because now that I'm thinking about it, that literally happened to Carson Wentz and the Eagles, and all they've done since then is win 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah. Well,
attend 3. So
you think about Sam Bradford with the Vikings, like he was the answer and he was so good, and then his knee got obliterated, and then Case Keenum came in and all he did was lead him to the NFC Championship game through the Minneapolis Miracle.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to say 1 on that one.
All right.
Like, I'm going to say that's best case scenario. With the caveat that the team still finds success in the absence of their starting quarterback.
Yeah, I guess the way I wrote it, I left it wide open for that to still work out. It could be an Eagles situation. Because if you go back 10 years or 7 years and tell a diehard Eagles fan, like, hey, you're going to have the second overall pick. You're going to draft an up-and-coming quarterback. His rookie year, he's going to be amazing, like almost MVP level. And then right before the playoffs, Dunzo tears his ACL or whatever happened to him, and then you just stop it right there. That Eagles fan is gonna be like, "Mother, son of a gun," and they're gonna be pissed. And then you fast forward the next 5, 6, 7 years and be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you attend 3 Super Bowls, you win 2 of them, and you're considered one of the better teams in the league despite hating your coach the whole time." Like, yeah, I'd take it.
Based on your remaining scenario, did I make the right decision?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My last one. So I almost said this earlier. I wrote these in order of mildest to, Armageddon. My last one is comical how horrific it is.
Well, I look forward to that gold, but I've got to give you another scenario here. Okay, so I'm going to go with this one here. And again, I was not nearly as specific as you were, so my apologies. I can definitely be more specific.
So can I explain my process?
Yeah.
I went to ChatGPT.
So did I.
And I typed in most Vikings thing ever. And it gave me...
Oh, it gave me a list,
a paragraph of, a story. And I was like, okay. So
I got
one of
points.
them I kind of tailored towards that. I redid it a little bit, but then the rest of mine I'm like, well, I can't have a little mini story for one of them and then just be like, oh, JJ McCarthy sucks for another one. Yeah. So that's why I kind of tailored it.
I get it.
Yeah.
And I definitely use ChatGPT too, but I didn't. I think I maybe used 2 or 3 from that were just kind of fully hijacked, and then I just kind of put my own spin on it. But a few of these, these are just my own original thoughts. I think this is original. It's just kind of vague, but you'll understand. So it would be the most Vikings thing ever if the Vikings play really well all season long and then absolutely implode in a key game in the playoffs.
So the 2024 season.
2024, 2019, 2017. I mean, we can go back. We can recount all of the games that we've witnessed in our lifetime where the Vikings have had phenomenal regular seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, the Giants in what was that?
2001. The 41 donut. Is that
the
what you're
41 donut? But then there was was it 2022? Where didn't they play the Giants again? No.
Oh yeah.
It was
the
22.
Daniel Jones game.
The Daniel Jones game.
Yeah. That was KOC's rookie year.
The game after the Minneapolis Miracle against the Eagles was like 34-7 or whatever.
1998.
98.
Yeah.
It would be the most Vikings thing ever.
2009.
We have this running list of games that it would absolutely certainly be the most Vikings thing ever for that to happen. JJ McCarthy's the answer. All of these free agents that we've signed, they've established the trenches. We're great. We are the best team in football.
Yeah.
And then poof, it's all gone in 60 minutes because we can't finish a game.
That's my number 5, just because it's awful and we've seen it. Like we've lived it. It would literally be
rips your heart out.
The most Vikings thing ever. We just named 7 different seasons, however many different seasons, where that exact thing just happened. And I know only one team wins the Super Bowl every year, and every other team has, a disappointing playoff loss that they'll remember forever. But also lots of other teams have, 1984 was awful, but remember when we won the Super Bowl 3 years later? They all have that. But how about that? The Bears have the 1985 season. Like, they can always be like, "Well, I've seen my team in the Super Bowl in my lifetime." Like, the Vikings and 3 other teams have never made the Super Bowl. So, and the Vikings are the most beaten down, other than maybe the Bills, of that group of teams that have never made a Super Bowl. Yeah, so that's my number 5 because have you heard, like, if you step on like a coral reef and it like burns your skin, and then if you any time in the rest of your life you also step or touch another coral reef, not only does it burn where you touched it that time, but it burns where you had initially touched it, whether 5 minutes before or like 20 years before. Like, the playoffs are the Vikings coral reef injury. Like, it just, there's no way 2025 would end with a heartbreaking loss, and we wouldn't also think about 2024 and 2022 and 2009 and 2017 and 1998 and all the, for the fans that are old enough, all the Super Bowl losses. Like, it just, we don't have that one magical year that would be like, well, at least Brett Favre took us to the Super Bowl that one time. We can remember that, and well, I'll just watch the replay of that game. No, we don't have that. We have the Minneapolis Miracle, and even that is awful.
Can I tell you what that reminds me of? It's definitely a rabbit trail, but it's actually
Let's go. I just rabbit trailed for 5 minutes.
You talked about the coral reef and how if you step in the wrong spot and you burn your whatever, and then you do it again, it hurts even worse, and it, whatever. So when we were in high school, friend of the show, Chaz, who still needs to make an appearance on the show, but
fantasy football time, we'll get him on.
He will eventually. We'll get Chaz on the show if we can get a hold of him.
We need to get Chaz in the same room as us at some point.
We need to go kidnap the guy at some point.
We've done that before. No, that was another guy. But anyways,
I've kidnapped Chaz before.
Have you?
I have.
I'm thinking of Brother John.
I kidnapped Chaz.
You were the driver for the Brother John.
Maybe I was. I brought Chaz all the way to Colorado.
I remember that.
I brought him out of state.
To talk about rabbit trail. Anyways,
when we were in high school, we had this crazy idea to shave our legs, and we got Nair.
Oh, I remember this.
And this is kind of reminiscent of when you and I both waxed a limb. I
still have a little bit of a bare spot.
Yeah, mine's almost back to normal. Almost.
And yours was a couple of weeks after mine.
Yeah, and I got 4 of them. I got 2 on each leg. Nair is like a liquid foamy thing that you put on your legs, and then you literally you let it sit for a minute, and then you wipe it off, and it just takes your hair off.
Yeah.
Well, if you apply that stuff in the same spot, the burning sensation that you feel is unparalleled to anything I've ever felt in my life.
Right.
It is intense.
Purple punishments. We're using the foam there in this coming year.
So no more
So we'll have
wax
to let it
strips.
sit and
But then you have to reapply it to feel the burn.
yeah. We'll reapply it.
Like it's like like you want to like, I don't know. It's like when we were kids and we'd get out of the hot tub and go roll around in the snow. It's like one of those sensations. It's like
a burn.
Anyways, so all of that to be said, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. That would be bad. I would not enjoy that if that happened.
Yeah.
As Vikings fans.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's my number 5. Even if your next scenario is worse than that. But all right, my final one, right?
Yes.
All right.
And I only have 5 to pick, so whatever this is must be pretty bad.
Dude, I'm telling you. Okay, so this, I almost don't even want to say it because it's so over the top. Okay. The Vikings finally earned their first trip to the Super Bowl in our lifetimes.
Wow. All right.
They're viewed as the obvious favorites to win the game, and it seems like this really may happen. In a sick twist of events, the opposing team's plane crashes on the way to San Francisco, and the game is canceled.
Wow.
The most Vikings thing ever.
I hope that doesn't actually happen because then we'll look like idiots for laughing.
I'm talking about like 100 people dying. Like that would be
That's
awful.
got to be the worst thing ever. And like it would be the most Vikings thing ever because like the Vikings will have done everything right to get to that spot. And then, no, we're not playing the game.
For no fault of their own. Can you imagine though, like what would actually happen if the team's flight to the Super Bowl crashed? No matter who it was, like any team, what would they do? Like you're talking, because teams get there like a week or so before the game. There's all the media hype, everything. Like they would cancel the game.
Of course, they would have to.
But there wouldn't be a Super Bowl winner that year. Like, what would logistically that would be?
They would probably
on top
just,
of the horror of loss of life and stuff.
I feel
logistically, that'd be just an
they would
insane
probably
nightmare.
just name both teams champions.
Like honorary.
I think that's what they would have to do. Honorary champions, like the deceased team, and and again, that is a doomsday scenario. That
literally
is like
doomsday,
way out in left field.
And to my knowledge, like teams fly together.
Yeah.
Like they all fly together, which maybe that would change like how operations work. Like you'd get like, I mean, we've seen We Are Marshall, like they would travel separately, probably not the whole team on the same plane. Like,
or you just take a bus everywhere.
all the backups fly on a different plane or something.
The backups fly and the starters take a bus.
Yeah. But like, yeah, that would be the most Vikings thing ever, to finally be on the brink of just
everything for the franchise,
and then for no fault of their own, and nothing the Vikings could actually complain about. That's the thing. Like, KOC couldn't throw a fit. Like, what do you mean you're canceling the game? Like, dude, 100 plus people just died. Like,
right.
Like,
well, and I would have to believe that everybody in the Vikings organization would handle themselves
100% top notch. But like, the thing is, even if you were upset about it, you're not allowed in that scenario. You wouldn't be allowed. You'd be the worst person ever to complain about it. Like, and you're absolutely right. Everyone in the other organization would be just over the moon about like, how can we help families? You know, like they would be gracious about it. But that would be the most Vikings thing ever, to be on the brink of everything, to be able to taste that win. Like, oh, the Vikings are 14-point favorites in the Super Bowl. It's the craziest odds ever. Nope, not going to happen.
Yeah, that would definitely have to be the worst for me.
Yeah.
But I think I got some of those wrong, for sure. But
you got the most important one.
I got the most important one right. I've got one more for you here.
Let's hear it.
And you can only say this is number 4. So this is like second worst.
Yeah.
And I think if you tried hard enough, And if I set this up well enough, I think you can make a case for this being the second worst possible scenario that I present you.
It's not like, oh, JJ McCarthy wins multiple MVPs and then you have to pay him. Like,
No. It's not that. So I want you to remember when we were sitting right here, this was before this old gal was here. We were sitting in the
Man Center.
Yeah, we were sitting in the easy
Recliners,
chairs.
yeah.
We were watching a game up there. We were actually live streaming the game on YouTube. It was the Raiders game.
Skol!
Do you remember the score of that game?
3-0.
It was 3-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a defensive effort for
Was
sure.
that in the same season they had the largest comeback in NFL history?
Mhm.
And then the almost smallest margin of victory you can have?
I think those two games happened within several weeks of each other. I think they were kind of in the same part of the season. So I think it would be the most Vikings thing ever for the Vikings to win a game without scoring an offensive touchdown.
I feel like that's happened. But yeah, absolutely.
And it would certainly be reminiscent of that Raiders 3-0 win, but that was technically an offensive score, 3-0. I could see, and hopefully this doesn't happen, but I mean, given the sample size we have to work with KOC's offense and Brian Flores' defense, I could see this offense getting stagnant over time, putting too much stuff on tape, not being able to make something happen against another team.
Yeah.
And I could see this defense
Poorly using a timeout here and there. Yeah.
Clock management, game management, all that stuff. I could see it all culminating in a defensive win for the Vikings, and in a really frustrating win, albeit it's a win, and we've said it before, a win is a win is a win in this league. But boy,
didn't they do that against the Titans last season? Didn't Parker Romo have all the points for the team?
4 field goals.
Yeah.
12-7.
Yeah, no offensive touchdowns, which, I mean, you could think of...
I'm going to consider a field goal technically an offensive touchdown.
Because the offense put them there.
I'm not saying... In this scenario, I'm saying the offense doesn't even get that.
No points from...
There are 0 points. No field goals, no touchdowns. The only points would come from either...
Like a
safety or a pick six or a fumble returned for...
That would be the most Vikings thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, 4. I could definitely see that as a 4. That's where it is for me. It has to be, but, yeah. I think we got some good lists there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like that.
Good talking points, good lists.
Fun. We should do this again sometime, but with new things.
Oh, yeah.
I think
absolutely.
that'd be fun.
Or maybe we could, like, go back and be like, did you know this actually happened for the Vikings in, like, 1973? Obviously, it's the most Vikings thing ever. Like... There's probably some things out there we could dig up.
Well, if you're out there listening and you're like, hey, that actually happened, let us know. We want to know about it because, I mean, we're not super old yet. We haven't been around for the entire history of the team. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know. What else we got to talk about?
This beer. It's almost over.
What'd you think? You're a little bit ahead of me.
I'm feeling the 8.2% for sure. Not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Not in a way that I'm going to regret tomorrow. But I'm feeling it and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's a good beer, good feeling. I will be happy to have it again. It's almost as good as the Easy Eddie, which that one's almost perfect. The Easy Eddie is. This one's it's the same thing, just a little boozier. I like it a lot.
And I almost wonder if, like, with those beers, with all of the Eddie beers, if they just kind of took the same recipe and just kind of said,
base, yeah, probably.
Let's put it on a spectrum. We'll have super boozy here, and we'll have really light over here, and we'll have everything in between. So no matter where you're at, what you're looking for in a beer, we got you covered.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. Super good.
Well, if people have had this beer or any other Big Grove, how could they let us know what they think about it? They
could comment on the YouTube video.
Ooh, yeah.
They could drop a comment on Spotify. You can do that whether you're listening or watching. You drop us an email, theskolhop@gmail.com. You can drop us a line there anytime. We both monitor that pretty closely, I think.
And any social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere.
Yeah.
We're there.
Yeah.
The Skol Hop.
Yeah, and even if it's not beer related, if it's Vikings related, if you think we got it wrong on our doomsday scenarios for the Vikings,
I thought we did pretty good.
Yeah, I think we did just fine.
Yeah.
But if there are other like scenarios out there too that you're like, hey, this could actually happen.
Yeah.
Send it our way. We'd definitely be interested in knowing what you, the audience, thinks.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Great beer. Maybe best episode yet.
Skol.
Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop.